Mm-hmm.
You recording?
What?
You filming?
What are you talking about?
Willie and I are going round for round here.
Round for round
back
here.
To back.
You want Pacific Bold or do you want Breakfast Blend? Because you're going to need to get oiled up for this.
I'm going dark and bold today.
Dark and bold. Dark and bold. We're on number 6. This is going to be a record day. I can just feel it already.
Diesel in the veins.
In with the good, out with the bad.
What do you want today's topic to be?
Have you done one yet?
Nope, this is our very first one.
It's called What's the Word at Waypoint. It's a bi-weekly video series highlighting whatever we want to talk about. So what do we want to talk about today?
What is the word today?
I don't know.
I'm not sure either, but
Yeah.
waiting for you two to give me a topic to talk about.
I gotta go on a thinking streak here.
Yeah, me too. Lots of baits we could talk about.
Boys,
What?
what are we doing?
I don't know. Fucking freaking talking about tackle.
A little tackle
Welcome.
talk.
Welcome to both of you.
What are we calling this thing?
What's the word at Waypoint?
The Waypoint word.
Featuring
Is
Willie.
this is not to be confused with the word is bass, correct?
It's a spin-off series of The Word is Bass.
I think it might be completely different entirely.
So What's the Word at Waypoint is going to be a bi-weekly series featuring us, maybe some guest appearances, maybe Willie, and
Maybe we can talk Jay into it. Jay.
and we're just going to talk about whatever we want to talk about. Each week will kind of have a little bit of a theme or a topic to it, so we don't get too far astray, but yeah, we've had some customer requests that we actually would do some videos and talk a little bit more in depth about some of the stuff we've been throwing, sneaky stuff, tackle hacks, how we're rigging this, how we're rigging that, and just some other stuff that we haven't had the chance to really promote or talk about because it's flying off the shelf so quickly.
Yeah, you guys gotta. Well, actually, don't stop. Keep buying stuff, please. But also, maybe check out some of this stuff because we have a lot of some of it,
And we're not gonna
not so much of others of it.
We're definitely not gonna get through it all, but we just wanted to make a little bit of a baseline to go off of. I think the topic of the day is
What do we throw right before ice off?
fishing.
Cold
Or
water.
right before ice on, I should say.
Fishing before ice on. Fishing
Yeah.
before the ice comes.
So like now until your lake has a very annoying layer of ice over the top of it,
or if there
that
are
you have to drill
other
through.
nationwide before their water just gets stupid cold, right?
Yeah, I've got some sneaky stuff for down south.
Yeah.
I got some sneaky stuff for you southern boys. Just you wait.
It's November 20th right now. We're gonna probably have a thin layer of ice over our lakes in, I don't know, maybe a week to 10 days,
Probably
something
about
like
that.
that. Looking at the forecast, so it's wrapping up. But we've compiled some stuff that we just wanted to highlight because it's really high quality stuff, and also it's working right now. So I wanted to get my cat out of the bag first because people have been bugging me about something that I've been throwing from early season up until late season all year round,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got a little bit of a tackle hack component to it.
Okay.
What's this thing?
So
Does this have to do with it?
that is it.
What?
It is called the skirted scat.
Oh.
Oh.
Everybody has heard about it who has watched our previous podcast on the Teal's Bass Galaxy, but I had never actually went in and demonstrated what it is that I'm doing, and it's a lot more simple than when you explain it. It's literally just putting a skirt on in front of the depths cover scat, and it just adds a little bit more flash to that bulbous tail, but throwing it all season, and particularly right now I'm throwing it in the areas where the boat docks have been removed, and they're just kind of cruising around. They don't really know where home is, and it's getting right now the bigger bites for me. As I'm saying right now, I just put my boat away the other day, like the rest of us probably did. But literally, it is a 4/0 EWG wide gap hook, an untamed tackle custom skirt that he brought in for us to sell. And I'm going to thread that skirt on before the hook, tie the hook on, and the hook's got to have a ring because that promotes the action of the cover scat when you're twitching it and doing little half reels with it.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you ever put a bobber stopper in front of this?
I have not.
Mm.
It's a great idea though.
That could be
Just
big.
thoughts.
That
It's
is-
probably got to be like a extra big bobber stopper
Yep.
for anyone willing to try that because
Yep.
there is a pretty good gap in the hole for
Yep.
the skirt. But thinking about some
That's a good idea. I should try
posh
that.
stuff from back in the day.
I'll have to try that in the springtime. Skirt, ringed hook. Thread your cover scat onto the hook, just like you would any other Texas rig bait. And that is going to slide on there perfectly nice. Ready to catch some big ones. Get it
You know,
on
I'm
there.
going to catch some fish on this.
Get
next
it on
snow.
there nice and straight. And then you're just going to slide that untamed tackle skirt right over the eye of the hook. It's going to sit on there nice and beautiful, and voila, you've got yourself a skirted scat.
Okay, question.
Yes.
Sorry, I have lots of questions,
Yep.
but I think the people have the questions. Is there a specific reason you use the ringed hook for this tactic?
Yes, there is a very specific reason I use a ringed hook. Cover scat in everybody's or most people's mind is made as a do-nothing bait, and that's great, but when you twitch it, and when you taught me that little thing about the half reels on a swim bait,
Mhm.
I do half reels with the cover scat and twitch it, and what that allows it to do is it's laying on the bottom and it's doing an underwater walk the dog motion. Like it's like you're walking a spook underwater. It's gonna literally it's gonna do one of these under the water.
Oh my gosh.
And when you add that skirt and do those little hops and twitches, it just pulsates. Along with when it lands on the bottom, then you got the bulbous tail. Ding, 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 ding. And when I'm fishing around pressured fish or lethargic fish, especially this time of year, it just becomes one package that they can't resist. Like movement, you've got the bulbous tail, now you've added a little bit of flash with the skirt, and they just can't resist that. So I just wanted to highlight that. That's my, it's probably my number one bait in general, but right now it's kind of my thing. So
Yeah, that's interesting because
Yep.
you really got like a bait, the cover scat, not much movement in it.
Yep.
I mean, a weightless, pretty much. I mean, it just doesn't do much, and then you're adding a little bit of life to it with that
Yep.
skirt.
I'm sitting here thinking about all the situations I could have used that this year and thinking about all the ones I'm going to use it next year. So that's usually a good sign, is if I'm sitting here going, man, I could use this here or here or here on this lake.
And that's been working good for you, cold water.
yeah, and I don't know exactly what it is about it, but adding that skirt directly leads to more bites when you need it. Like for all my testing I've done with this thing, when you add that skirt and you're looking for a bite, that skirt gets you the bite. So, cool bait.
Yeah, that's a good little tip.
Cool tackle hack.
There's somebody out there who's mad you just shared that. It's
Yep.
not me, though. I mean, that's cool.
Yep. What else we got?
Oh, we got so much stuff. Willie, you or me?
I'll go.
Okay.
I got a couple different.
Yeah, I saw you brought some sneaky stuff in.
So, cold water, most of the time I'm fishing smallmouth. I mean, nothing crazy, but just your tube. This just gets lots of bites for me. I'll dead stick a tube.
What weight do you like in a tube head? Because I don't throw tubes ever.
I mean,
I'll fix you, don't worry.
usually this time of the year I'm fishing 18 plus feet of water, pretty deep. 3/8 is probably the lightest I'll go.
And you like the Howies?
I like
Little guy?
Yeah, so I like the Great Lakes Finesse. Their mini tube head. It's got this little, probably 1/0 on it, and then paired up with this, I think it's a 2.5 inch Howie's tube.
Yep.
Just a little taste treat for them. If they're not eating this one, then I'll bulk up. But something about these northern smallmouth and this little profile for them. Kind of like a 1-2 punch with that for me is like a blade bait, but this year I've been messing around with this dare coop. Fish it.
I've not thrown that.
You haven't?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
A little tailspin action.
And the number one question I hear about that is how do you fish it?
Yeah. So I mean, really, I fish it just like a blade bait.
a lot of yo-yo, a lot of stroke in it.
Yeah, I tend to do it more just with my reel.
Okay. I know some guys they'll snap the rod tip or lift the rod tip.
Yeah, I've done that, but it seemed, for me at least, it seems like I lose more fish.
Okay. I could see that, yeah.
But yeah, just slow half turns or whatever and feel that vibration. Let her sit back down, and I mean, that thing just gets bit. I'll upsize that hook sometimes.
Really?
If they're eating it kind of funny, but a lot of the time they're in their throat.
When do you start throwing this? Because that's the thing that's always been a problem with me is like, I don't know, when do you start getting into this kind of thing? Like, is the blade bait thing, is it when you
Same
throw,
time.
Same time as the blade bait?
Yeah, that's when I've had success. I mean, seems like you got that swim bait bite, high 40s. I mean, all the baits work. I think 50s and below, the baits that I'm talking about are really the ones that I go to. But yeah, that you get into that lower 40s, mid 40s, it's the deal.
We kind of have a rule, at least me and my buddy Connor O'Connor, you guys know him. Our rule is the colder it is, the more metal. So
Okay, yeah.
as you get closer to that 40, 38, yep. I mean, we'll throw the umbrella rig all year. I mean, let's be honest. But as we get closer and closer to that 40-degree mark, that's when we start seeing the Dara and the overrides, the blade baits. We're out of Patas, but that was a good pick for a long time there.
Have you thrown the override at all?
I did. I threw it last year a little.
Yeah, I mess around with it. I like it.
So, number one feature on the override, from what I've experienced, is you can like lay it.
I'll be right back.
You can
We're
lay
gonna
it.
go talk to customers.
Basically, lay it on the bottom, and where you get a traditional blade bait hung up, and
Oh, it's just terrible.
oh boy, Sarah's here.
The boss is here.
The real boss is here.
The real boss is here.
The feature I've noticed about the override when
Yeah.
I'm fishing it is it's when you lay it on the bottom and in areas where you're typically going to get snagged up in rock and in zebra mussels, the way that it falls, it lands on its side.
Yeah, yeah.
And with that, it doesn't wedge in the rocks, it doesn't get caught in the zebra mussels, and that's the kind of the number one feature I've noticed about
That has to do with the shape of that bottom. So, I don't know if they can see this. If you guys look at that, there's a little bubble on the bottom of the override here. Can I take this one out real quick?
You're going to buy it.
Oh, man. Bummer. Oh, no. Another bait I'm going to use. Okay. So, if you look at the bottom, it's got a bubble on the bottom. And you'll also notice on that bubble, and Willie, you can see it, it's very rounded.
Yeah.
What happens is as it's coming down, it's going to catch water, and then it's going to shove that water to the side, kind of like an airplane wing, but that's where it gets to do that because it'll catch that water and just go and land flat. Yeah. Whereas we don't have any other ones in here because these are our favorites, but there's a couple blade baits out there. They have that little bubble, but it's a little bit more of like it comes to a point instead of being rounded, and you don't get that action where at the bottom it just kills and turns sideways. So,
And that's got the three eyes in it, so you can rig it three different ways. That's pretty neat.
It changes whether you're fishing it more vertical or getting it out there.
Yep.
If I was casting it, I'd pull it to the front. Where it's at is kind of a do-all, and then if you move it back one, you can get reel over the top of it and get some forward-facing action.
Get vertical with it.
Oh, I forgot something. Can I go grab it?
Mm-hmm.
This triggered something.
What you're grabbing. Yeah. What colors?
I pretty much stick to gold.
Gold.
I'm pretty much gold, or like this color's got gold with a little bit of flash in it.
Yeah. With that
I'm
little
black and
orange.
gold
Is this
or
what you
gold
thought
with
it
some
was?
flash.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some boys out in East Tennessee who are about to be so pissed at me, and I don't care. Sorry, guys. This time of year, before the ice hits, I will throw a jig and wrap. I don't want to say a lot because I prefer the blade bait. They've got the new jigging series, the Magnum, which will also do some damage this time of year. But what triggered my memory of that is we were talking about that and getting over the top of it. Down in, I'm not going to name the lake, but there's a lake in eastern Tennessee that has big tournaments on it. That this is a deal from the end of December through the second week of March before those fish hit the bank. And all those guys do is they drive around and they look for deep basins and they find schools of bait fish and they look for dots underneath the bait fish. And you can catch them with the regular scope and stuff, or you can catch them on these. So I don't know if those guys are throwing like the Derrick hoop or the blade bait, but I bet it would absolutely crush in that situation. That would do well in that situation too.
A lot
Castmaster.
a lot of people are dropping it down the ice hole, but cold water, it can play. It can play for sure.
Shoot. If you go back on YouTube, there's that YouTube channel called Lynn Dollar that has all these old Bassmasters.
Mm-hmm.
There is a wintertime Bassmaster event that was won basically on a Castmaster. And if you guys are one of those guys who hates forward-facing sonar, you should go back and look and see how they're using their 2D like we use forward-facing sonar. Because there's a paper graph trail, and they're sitting over suspended fish, and you can just see the roll, like the paper roll, coming through the screen, and there's just blobs. So I don't know, there's a lot of people who got a lot of things to say about forward facing, but the reality of it is all those techniques came from something from before forward facing even existed. So crazy thing you just reminded me of.
What about minnow baits?
Ooh,
yeah.
I
Do
like
those work this time of year?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's why I grabbed them. Kitex always work, nothing special there.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to touch on that one a little bit.
Yeah.
Spin elastomer 4-inch fish arrow.
Yeah, so if you guys have seen the
You can pull one out.
Flash J from Fish Arrow with the pintail or the fork tail, they make another tail, right? Oh, paddle tail. This is the spin elastomer.
Because it spins and it's elastomer.
And it's got a little blade on it. They didn't want you to get at them though. See? Look at this. Look at this.
Oh yeah, that thing was money.
Yeah, they're gonna eat that. I mean, I think you can just go ahead and put it on the same head that you'd regular one on.
That's what I've been doing, is ball heading it.
Yeah.
Or like
head.
with a horizon head.
Oh yeah.
And you can just like any other shaking a minnow, you can shake that minnow, but this minnow doesn't come off the shank of the hook. It stays on because it's elastomer. You know, because you're shaking a minnow, and by the time you get back to your boat and you're like, oh, it's a quarter inch or an inch off the head.
It's like all the way down here.
This one stays on.
I like that.
I don't care how many fish you catch, it
I like
stays
that.
on.
Can you glue it on there?
You can, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to glue it on
Do
there.
you glue it on there
I don't
normally?
glue it on there because I don't have to glue it on there because it's elastomer. Shake a minnow with this, and it's got a little bit, that little blade action. You can even slow roll it.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think you could just straight retrieve that sucker.
Really good fall, especially like if you want to fish kind of when the algae bloom hits in the late fall, dirty water.
Little turnover.
They will come.
Oh yeah, that post turnover action's good.
They will scream up for this thing. And then
Boulders
of course it's got
on some of those northern lakes, like going.
And it's got that typical
Hovered over the top of one.
fish arrow kind of tinfoil center in that just promotes all sorts of flash. This is probably like the flashiest minnow ever.
Gets them going.
Yeah, it's just super realistic too. So been
Yeah.
really happy with that one.
Fire me up.
Yeah, it's a good,
Go fishing.
good cold water bait.
Yeah. I mean, I've caught a lot of fish on a regular old Kitex, so there's no reason that won't catch fish. In fact, I know it does catch fish because we've caught them.
There's one other non-JDM option that I wanted to highlight. I don't know if you've used it. I think Willie. I think I
this
sent
one?
Willie up with that.
Yeah, Willie
I-
took a look at that deal.
Yeah,
You
I
used
was
this one yet?
Yeah, I've thrown it on Ned rig, but I mean,
the bass
Minnow.
mooch. Bass mooch could be, because it could be a worm, it could be a minnow,
Ah.
it could be whatever you want it to be. And that's one of our. It's a really hot online seller. The guys that are searching for them obviously know about them, and they sell really good. They kind of just sell themselves, but we've never actually talked about it. They pack with that Bass Mooch proprietary scent mooch juice.
The moose juice.
The Mooch juice.
Yeah, so like us being Minnesota guys,
Willie's like, oh my
That's
gosh,
a different scent.
that's awesome.
us being Minnesota guys, of course we looked at this and go, let's just put on a Ned head, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Everything in Minnesota is a Ned rig, so that's
You put it on a round ball head.
you can put on a ball head,
Now we're
You
talking.
can you shake it?
you can
What's
shake
this
it,
deal?
Shake it. Have you put it on a drop shot yet?
put it on a drop shot.
Okay. Okay.
The number one thing I've found to do with it is Bass Mooch and Fish Arrow both make a prop head jig with a little spinner on the front.
Yeah.
Sneaky.
It's made, actually the original design was made to throw on that spin head and just slow retrieving it, but the amount of joints this thing has, when you retrieve that, it goes crazy. Like, it's not just like you're reeling a worm through the water, it becomes this lively minnow. And they've made it in a bunch of really cool colors. They got threadfin shad, Tennessee shad. They
Would it go well on an
they got
A-rig
an
potentially?
IU. They got a black.
Maybe not as like the primary bait, because
That might be
obviously
kinda cool.
Minnesota, like you gotta have one and then blades or dummies. But
Yeah,
maybe as dummy baits or as secondary
that'd
baits
be
on
really
the
cool.
A-rig.
Yeah, I've not done that, but I think that'd be. I think you're onto something there, especially with that stealth rig.
Wasn't there something about this stealth rig you were telling me about earlier?
Yeah. So
Oh yeah.
And I
99
don't know whether to believe you or not, so I'm gonna let you cook on that.
99% of the guys haven't heard of it or don't believe me, but this head was actually made in the stealth rig to inject scent into. You can pick whatever kind of scent you like and
It does have chambers in
put
it.
it in
looks
there.
like.
I know guys have put bait pop in it, like that monkey milk bait pop. They've put that in there, and it leaves, when you reel it, it leaves a trail of
Oh.
whatever you want to inject into it. And that's probably the number one feature of, other than it being, it's got the almost indestructible wires
Are
on
they
it.
even considered wires at that
I don't know
point?
what
I mean,
you
they're.
call that
I don't
It
know what
looks like it's
they're
floral.
appendages to me, but they're awesome.
thing. It's indestructible, but then you add that other piece to it where you can actually add a scent trail, and you can start chumming the water.
Yep. Chum them up.
That I think is gonna put more in anglers' boats.
As if they hadn't already found a reason to ban
Yeah.
these in half the leagues that there is. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of ball or top head jigs,
Oh, prop head jig on that, or
a little sweeper.
should I grab a prop head jig real quick so
Yeah.
I can show what we're talking about?
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
So this little sweeper, I grabbed this one out. This one's, I play with this thing a lot in the cold water.
How are you rigging it? Because that's one that I've strictly only have put on a prop head.
Okay. I'm doing that. I fish it on a prop head. I don't really throw a prop head too much.
Here's our main. We have a couple other prop head options, but these are the two main ones we've been talking about for you guys. Fish Arrow makes the wheel head, come in a variety of sizes. This is a 1/20th. It's got 1/16th and I think 1/8th. This is the Bass Mooch tungsten prop head. This one's 3/16th. They have it in a couple of different sizes as well.
I think Fish Arrow comes in a little bit lighter, and
Yeah.
then the Bass Mooch comes in a little bit heavier, so they kind of set each other apart. They're both tungsten.
They have different hooks, lengths, like shank lengths as well. So if you're looking for a shorter shank, the Bass Mooch is the deal. And then if you're looking for something a little longer, that wheel head's going to be the deal. You can kind of see the comparison right there. It's not much different, but it's enough for me to notice a difference.
So prop head, that's how I rig that. What are you doing with that thing?
So,
The little sweeper.
dude, this thing's so
Little
versatile
sweeper.
for me. Like, I like to nose hook it on a drop shot. I will put it on a ball head, and so it has this air chamber in it.
Really?
Yeah, so you can hover rig it.
Didn't even know that was a feature.
But I find
So
that
hold it up to the light.
yeah,
See it.
yeah, it goes through most of the body.
You can see it.
Yeah.
I find on a ball head, so I think there's something to do with this air. It shows up more on forward-facing sonar than a bait that's just solid, soft plastic. So I like that. It's got the tail, I mean, it's not a paddle tail. It's
got a wedge style tail, like Huddleston style. Yep. It's a very small version of a Huddleston tail, basically.
Yeah.
Which was their goal with it, because that because I know this from randomness. The whole idea behind that wedge tail is that it does better in cooler water.
Yeah.
It pushes a more natural feeling wake, but it also pushes more. So proportionally, it's going to push off more for its size than a pintail or, just a little kicktail. But I think some people call it the wedge tail. Some people call it a Hud tail. But yeah, it's got that design on it. And that's huge. Like, that's such a difference maker in certain situations.
Yeah, this is a little, I mean, I throw this thing year round, but...
That thing on a drop shot.
On a drop shot, I like it. I mean...
That's definitely a different profile for drop shotting. It's like a cross between drop shotting a true minnow and a swim bait. I think you get the best of both worlds for that.
Yeah.
And I guess it depends on what you're doing with the drop shot, but when I'm drop shotting like swim bait style minnow, I'm dragging it to get the tail action, whereas that's got enough, it's rigid enough that the tail, if you're not moving it very fast, is still doing stuff back behind it. Yeah. Whereas when you throw like a good examples of Arsenal Tactical minnow, those tails are pretty soft and pretty, if you're not moving them, they're just kind of back there. Whereas that's going to still give you some love in that situation.
Yeah, so little sweeper plays.
We already did the cover scat thing, but we didn't do the cover scat thing.
What are you talking about, wedges?
So like your traditional 3.5 and 3 inch and 4 inch cover scat, bottom contact, 4/0, 5/0 hook. So you'd think you'd probably rig this up on a like a 2/0, maybe on a spinning rod, do the same thing, right?
Well, yeah.
Right, but wrong.
What? Okay, I'm just kidding. I've already heard this speech, but
take
what?
Your 2.5 inch cover scat and rig it on a drop shot.
Oh. Now are you nose hooking it, threading it?
Nose hook it. Yep, nose hook it exposed.
Okay.
Drop shot it, shake it. The thing does insane crawfish dance.
Oh.
Like it does that same underwater walk the dog crazy, flips over and does all that crazy movement stuff, but when you shake it, it's doing that like a crawfish that's freaking out.
Does the Macarena down there?
Yeah. Okay. It's you're gonna be shaking it on a drop shot and it's flipping out like it's being attacked by a smallmouth.
Yeah. Huh.
The 2.5 inch cover scat's not a new thing, but that's a rigging method that guys don't know about.
Yeah.
Until now.
I never heard of that one.
That's in Japan, they're rigging this on a drop shot a lot of the time.
Really?
Yep. So I just wanted to spill that.
Wow. There's somebody in Japan who's really upset with you right now.
We'll make it up to them. The time has come to talk about noisy topwater baits.
Noisy topwater baits in the fall or winter, early winter.
I know you go down south a lot, and I think that's pretty popular down there.
Yeah, so as we transition out of normal fall season and into winter, in Minnesota, obviously we get ice, but down south they don't get any ice. So those fish get on bait fish quite a bit, and they'll chase shad around, big gizzards and little threadfin shad, push them into the back of pockets. They get on little flat banks and flat pockets. And a lot of guys throw a buzz bait, an awful lot. I was just at Ozarks, they throw a buzz bait an awful lot. There's legendary stories of guys catching them on buzz baits when it's snowing on Ozarks. And, guys winning, I believe it was ABA events on black buzz baits. So that's super popular down there. Obviously a white buzz bait. But I've selected one that off our shelves that I really like. It's the Max Squeaker. MAX Queaker, Queaker.
So squeaky.
Very squeaky. And we like that squeak, don't we, Roscoe?
Yeah, what, do you think there's a particular reason why that squeak draws them in, or is it just noise? Because before I met you and the people here, I was just throwing a buzz bait and reeling in. It was going brrrr. I never had experienced that true squeak until I got set up with a Max squeaker, and I didn't have to do anything out of the box to get it to do that. And that's not really something I was familiar with, was tuning buzz baits to get them to squeak. But that one, you don't have to.
Yeah, so
lot to unpack there, but
I guess the way to equate it, and I've kind of used this analogy previously, is if you have an alarm system in your house and for some reason it kicks on and stays on, kind of inclined to do something about it, right? I mean, obviously, if you have an alarm system, you're going to call the cops.
The cops are coming.
They're coming, but fish don't have cops, right? They got themselves, so they got to do something about it. So, if you got that high-pitched squeak and buzz in your house, or like, say you got an alarm clock that just will not go off, what are you going to do with it? You're probably going to break it, right? Or smash it, or attack it, or throw it, or whatever. Well, fish can't do half those things, but they can attack it. So they're trying to get it to shut the heck up. I mean, to be honest, it irritates the lateral line. I mean, if somebody's in your living room screaming, you're probably going to punch them in the face. They don't have a fist to punch them in the face, so they're probably just going to eat them. That's their only option. So that's what they're going to do. But it's just irritating them, man. I mean, I hate to say it any other way, but you're just trying to piss off a bass. And the best way to piss off a bass is to irritate his lateral line, and the squeak does that. Another feature on this Max squeaker is there's a brass ball, half ball here, that gets a clacking, ticking noise every time the blade comes through. So when that blade is ticking, it's another element that irritates their lateral line. So
you don't really do any modifications to it, right?
Not this one, no. This one comes out of the package.
You don't have to.
Pretty
Squeaky.
darn on the nuts.
That's the bait that introduced me to squeaky buzz baits.
Yeah,
so I've experienced the same thing.
So obviously on a different type of buzz bait out of the package, normal brand, Greenfish, Strike King, War Eagle. There's like 90-degree angles on these. There's one that goes this way and one that goes that way. And I'm going to bend those angles to make it so that they rub on the wire a little bit more. And it irritates the heck out of them. But, I mean, it's just about creating as much friction on there as possible. On a regular buzz bait, they have a rivet. This one doesn't have the rivet. They actually have a different screw piece in there, which I think has part of why it squeaks, because that's brass actually. But I'll scuff up rivets so that they squeak on each other. I'll scuff up where those angles are so they squeak. I've gone as far as taking the whole blade off and sanding the wires so the wire's more coarse. We talked about this earlier when we were talking about this podcast about holding them out the window so that they get worn in more. I've done that. Clothesline. Clothesline. I've done many things to make them squeak, but for some reason that irritates the crap.
But not
out of
the
them.
Max squeaker. The squeaker be squeaking.
No, that one be squeaking out of the package. That's as good as it gets, probably.
A lot of misconception, a lot of confusion, and a lot of I don't know what I need for a buzzbait rod. But I know there's an X-Brite model you really like for buzzbaits. But what's your buzzbait rod setup line? What's your input on that kind of stuff? Because I know
reel is personal preference. Some guys are 6-1, some guys are an 8-1. I'm somewhere in the middle, like a 7-1.
I'm a 7-1. Yep, I agree there.
But before we talk about the rod, I gotta talk about line, because one goes hand in hand with the other. I am a fluorocarbon buzzbaiter. I've gotten flack for it. I'll get flack for it to the day I die, but the logic is if this is your buzzbait.
Twigs down.
Wow.
Twigs be twigging.
Wow. I caught one. Ross didn't catch his. All right, so the idea is while it's running through the water, there's only this much line that's in the water when you're running a buzzbait. When I'm running a buzzbait, I got my rod tip up, and as it gets closer, I'll bring that rod tip down, but there's a blade creating lift. It's going to probably have no problem getting on top of the water. So I usually go straight fluorocarbon. I usually go heavier fluorocarbon. We grabbed 16 as an example. We
16
really like
Mastiff.
We really like the Shimano Mastiff here at the shop. But I'll go 20 because it's thicker diameter. It stays on top of the water a little bit better. That does matter still. The thing is, and this is where I'm going into with the rod, I use a stout rod. But when you're doing, especially topwater, like a buzzbait where you're reeling it in, you need to have some give in your system. Everyone likes their give in their system in a different spot. Some guys like giving their system in their rod, so they'll use a softer rod, like a medium heavy or a medium action. Some guys like giving their system in their reel. They'll use like a 6-to-1, so it's slower, and then they'll loosen up the drag a little bit. I don't like that because I like to set the hook and drive the hook, and once I've got them pegged, I want them coming in the boat. So my give is in my line. I use fluorocarbon because it's got more stretch, and I use a stout rod. Stout rod still gives me enough action, power, control. I use like a 7-foot 7-foot heavy X Pride. I like that shorter rod for making, precise casts, roll casts, stuff like that. And then I'll go ahead and use that fluorocarbon line in a 7-to-1 reel. Some guys like a 7 to 7.6 medium heavy, so they like to go ahead and put braid on their rod. Their give is in their rod. Either way, as long as you're comfortable with it, it works, but that's just my preference. I'm a fluoro guy.
A lot of people don't know that just because you are using braid, that doesn't mean that braid floats. There's a lot of sinking braid out there.
That's the sneaky thing out there.
Suffix 832,
Doesn't
that's what
float.
you're using, it's not floating.
It's definitely not floating.
And when I switched out of braid and did the fluorocarbon thing you're talking about, I don't know what it was, but it seemed like my casting got better, my control, and just getting it to get that initial startup seemed like it got better.
Yep.
Everything about it, the hook sets got better. It didn't
less tangles.
Like when you hook,
That's my big thing.
When you cast braid on a buzzbait, that hook sometimes would double back
Yep.
and go right into the braid, and then you're just like, I'm throwing a Senko now. It's
Or
stupid.
worse, it gets tangled up in the actual prop.
Yep.
I know this is rigged with something else, but like getting it wound up in the prop, not going to be a fun time. You're going to have to cut it out. You're going to basically kill a bunch of time. Yeah, I think fluorocarbon is more efficient. And this time of year especially, I think fluorocarbon's better. And we can get into that too, once we talk about these rods, but I think a lot of the time you want something in your system that has a little give in the fall and into the winter. There's a lot of times where the fish are cold, they have harder mouths.
Red lips.
You're going to want them, we talk about that too, but you're going to want a little bit give there so that you're not pulling hooks out of their face.
Yeah, what's that little guy you got there?
Have you thrown this yet?
No, I want to so bad though.
This is the Teckle Clinker, or Q-Linker, Q-L-I-N-K-E-R.
Is that a new one?
This is brand new from Teckle.
Clinker.
It's a kind of a mouse-shaped hollow body wake bait with a ton of clink, a ton of noise, creates a wake.
Let me see if I can get that to focus. Hold that up again, Willie. Back it
Yeah,
up.
it's kind of like
Back
a
it up.
dual blade.
It's a dual-bladed hollow body wake bait. Just kind of you can do a slow reel, you can do twitches, but no matter what you do, it's got it combines the wake you get with a traditional wake bait and adds noise to it as well. Noisy.
I know guys who already throw like the Teckle in the fall, like the regular Teckle.
The Sprinker.
The Sprinkler, this will be just as potent in that situation.
Hookups are unbelievable.
You can throw it on your regular frog rod too. So forget everything I just said about the buzzbait. Throw your frog rod for this one.
Rod,
That's a normal setup, but like
hookups are unbelievable with that bait. It's down their gullet every time, and yeah.
I think this is going to be really good because of the time of year the blade will be a killer, but
Yeah.
this thing's going to be good every time of year
Yeah.
that you can throw a frog, as long as the water's above a certain temp.
I noticed once we
45.
started, that really became deadly for me when we got into the October
Yeah.
weather, though. It's
Yeah.
just, that's when it really shined, compared to like our number one selling frog,
Yes.
which is the Spro Essential Series Flappin' Frog 65.
That thing's killer too.
It's an
but
elastic body, so they last forever. You don't want to mix it with your other plastics because of that, so you want to have your own dedicated Flappin' Frog box, probably.
yeah.
But tons of flap, tons of movement, really good hookups because of the material it's made of.
displaces a lot of water.
There's a time and place for that, and there's a time and place for this. This is going to be a lot noisier, and this is going to be a lot more ripply. And
From my limited experience with that frog, it does really well the same time you use like a horny toad.
yeah,
But what's cool about it is because it's a floating frog, you can kill it.
yeah,
So like, if you're getting short strikes on a horny toad, you can go back into the same area and throw that and crank it and twitch it a couple times
yeah.
and get the bite to
Yeah.
come back a lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time.
I did the analytics on this. This is our number one selling frog, and we brought it in just this year.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's
newer
gonna be
newer
crazy.
offering for us, but people are just loving it. And are those hooks? Are they angled upwards a little bit?
Yeah, they are. They did a good job of actually making those to be already at the correct angle.
Don't gotta bend them out.
Same thing with these. I mean, I'll pull this back out. I shouldn't have put it away. This has the same thing going on here. If you hold those side by side, I mean, that hook angle's up.
Yeah.
Different hooks. A lot of guys really like the tackle hooks because they're
Yeah.
round bend, but yeah, good angle on those.
Yeah, that durability on that flapping frog
Yeah.
is.
Guys have brought theirs in and been like, I can't even tell what color it was when I bought it because there's nothing left. They've got 100 fish on it.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah.
they've very, very good luck with certainly the Spro Essential Series Flappin' Frog, and that Teckle Clinker is going to be a big hit.
Yeah.
I think everybody should have themselves a clinker.
Yeah, I agree with that.
While we're on the subject of X-Bride rods, you and me both own a 7-foot heavy X-Bride for buzzbaiting, since you made me put Mastiff on my Daiwa Coastal Reel and got a dedicated buzzbait set
You're
up.
welcome. You're welcome.
I wanted to touch on these kind of finesse and scoping series rods that we picked out. The first one's the 610 medium Taftech with the solid core tip. This is it's designed for scoping.
Let me show him the juice, though.
Look at that.
Mm.
I
Solid
mean, I'm
core
giving
tip.
that everything.
What's-
Without like sandwiching it and for sure breaking it, no matter whose rod it is, that's as good as it gets.
And that's
Yeah.
something that unless somebody shows that to you, like when
You
you're
have
looking
no
at
idea.
those online, they make a medium and a medium heavy variation, but you don't know that rod does that until somebody shows you that. Do you guys know why do I want that bend in the tip section there?
Because when you're scoping, obviously those fish are chasing your bait. You're seeing them on the forward facing, right?
Yeah.
As you get closer, you might not realize really how close your bait is. I know there's times that when, especially when I first started using forward facing, that I'd be 10 feet away and still think I've got 30, 40, 50 feet of line out there.
Right.
What happens is they eat it and then they take off. They'll either take it and run straight down or right at you or away from you. It doesn't really matter. What matters, though, is that if they turn and go the opposite way, that you have enough give in the rod that it doesn't pull the bait out of their face. That Taftech is that little bit extra softness that allows that bait to actually get deep in their mouth and get eaten properly. Similar to having give in your buzzbait rod, you want give in your or buzzbait system. You want give in your scoping system.
Just let them eat it a little bit better.
Just a little bit
Yeah.
so that they can,
Yeah.
get it. But obviously, still want enough backbone to drive a hook. The rest of that blank is not Taftech. It is regular graphite, if I am not mistaken.
Yep.
So you get to your normal action after that. And to be honest, unless you take that tip and go like that, when it's loaded up, you barely notice that
Yeah.
it's a Taftech tip. And they're still super sensitive.
Yeah.
So
So I've got one of those. You've got one of those. Transition to this is our number one selling, I'd say, series of spinning rods, and Wilfred owns a few of these in the 842 variation. This is a 902 NRX Plus Inshore series. So this has got the same traditional NRX Plus blank with the handle basically just flipped upside down.
You see that? That's flipped on the regular NRXs.
My number one advice on this rod would be don't be scared by the inshore label.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Biggest differences besides the handle,
Guides.
the guides. These are not going to be your recoil guides, and that's actually a really good thing for cold water. I just like it in general. I'm not a huge fan of the recoil guides because I do fish so much like late season and really early in the spring when there's cold air. These, I don't want to say withstand ice, but they handle the ice better than the recoil. The recoil kind of gets jammed up in itself. I've seen some weird stuff happen with them because they're so small, and they get more brittle. This is traditional, either Torzite or ceramic guide. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'll have to double check, but I know it's got a regular insert in there. They handle that ice really well. I've had zero issues with my 841 inshore when it comes to cold weather.
Yeah,
like it doesn't bog down like.
And I like that 841 model because you can really
7-foot medium light, right?
I mean, yeah, you can do as long as you're not like I wouldn't throw like these heavy tubes and stuff I was talking about earlier, but any of your lighter
jigs,
anything,
the umbrella wires.
I mean,
wacky worming,
Carl's prairie spiders. The 902, excuse me, is a 7.6 for those of you guys who aren't Loomis guys and don't know how that number system works. Super good rod for like what we were talking about earlier with
little
the
swimmers, spy bait.
The spin elastomer flash J would be really good on here. But
hair would be really good because
a little heavier hair.
I do think it helps with you not having those recoil guides when you need that longer cast. So that's beneficial there. And I mean, Willie's used the 842 7-foot medium. Eric and I both own the 7-foot one or the 7-foot medium light, 841. Those are our top two selling rods in the entire store.
That 903 is super popular.
903 for white bass and river fishing and tube cracking.
This on a 7.6, the 8 or the 902 or 903, I should say. On the 903, this thing is going to be perfect. You'll get the best casting distance that you're going to get out of it. You'll have enough backbone. And a lot of times this time of year we're fishing deep. I mean, deep. 20, 25, 40. I've caught fish as deep as 48 feet this time of year. And on the bottom fish, like not fish that are halfway up the column, like throw out there, get your Kitech jig on the bottom, drag it as slow as you can. That 7.6 903 actually would handle a Kitech football jig just fine too.
Well, and they're rods in the traditional NRX Plus lineup that aren't found. It's a new offering that branched off, and just way more just stuff you can do with them, and new offerings that you just can't be afraid of the inshore tag. That's all I can say about it. You just can't be afraid that it says inshore on it because that 7-foot medium light 841 is our number one selling Midwest finesse rod, and it's not even close.
Yeah, hands down.
I think that probably just about wraps it up. We had a lot of stuff to
talk about.
Can't talk about one more sneaky thing.
One more thing.
One more sneaky thing. This is for you down southers because up in Minnesota, usually the window to do this is so small. It's like a week. But the Shad Wrap is a killer. Throw it on like a 903. You want something like actually it'd be really good on a 902 because you get the sensitivity that you're looking for. Those fish kind of eat it like they're mushing it down south this time of year. So, in addition to that, I always change hooks. So I got two hook offerings I want to touch. Gamakatsu treble EWG short shank, or the Ichikawa Kamakiri treble. This is going to be more of your EWG wide gap style. KVD treble style. These are going to be more of a round bed, like what comes on the Shad Wrap, but always change your hooks on your crankbaits, especially down south. You're running them into rock, clay, mud, all that stuff.
I'm a big fan of those Ichikawa hooks for changing them
They're
out.
sticky.
Yeah.
Sticky.
They're like dangerously sharp.
And they've got like some cool like in between sizes, like 5s and 7s, which are really good for jerk baits and smaller cranks and stuff. So I'm a big fan of the Ichikawa as well.
Yeah.
So that was just for my southern boys who know about this and are gonna do it.
Yeah.
So, other than that, man, I mean, that's
Covered
the word
a
at
lot.
Waypoint, right?
Yeah.
Every 2 weeks we're gonna come up with a new little episode. You can drop in the comments if you'd like for our next one, if you'd like to recommend or just let us know something that you're curious about, that you want us to talk about. We get a lot of questions in the store and we just wanted to come on and address a bunch of those, help people out. We've got a big, huge, enormous
Giant
Black Friday sale coming up.
Yeah.
Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, it's all happening. If you're not in Waypoint Angler Supply VIP group on Facebook, why aren't you? You should be, because we do special product releases, we do special deals. You get on our email list where we'll send you out discount codes, and we'll send out special buy one get ones and all the kind of stuff that's going on for Black Friday. You'll get the first look at our Black Friday list. So get on Facebook, go to Waypoint Angler Supply VIP group. It's only going to benefit you because you get first access to special deals, special product drops, stuff that we haven't released to the public yet. But make sure you stop in or go online to waypointanglersupply.com for that Black Friday weekend. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on, a lot of cool BOGOs and discounts, and it's going to be huge. There's probably going to be 40, 50 people waiting in line to get in, so join that group for sure.
And we've actually already got, if you go on the website, there's a tab, Early Black Friday. You can look at some of the deals that are already right now live. Kind of sneak peek and get them early. So, Black Friday's gonna be big though.
As always, these are mine now.
And these are mine.
All right, I'll take the NRX. Give me both. Give me the
Fine,
rod.
that's only fair. I'm going to take a lot of those tackles.
Yep.
Waypointanglersupply.com. See you there.